marketing for weapons was second to none. When I saw the first trailer, I was genuinely floored. I remember exactly where I was, at home, upstairs playing video games, and a random trailer just showed up on my feed. I couldn't believe how haunting it was, so I ran downstairs to show my brother. The trailer itself promised something we have never seen before. Even though we knew almost no details, what we did know is that 17 kids ran out of their homes at 2:17 a.m. This movie honestly stood out as one of my most anticipated of the year. I was fully sold on the idea that this would be the greatest horror movie of all time. Recently, there have been so many great horror movies that have really defined the genre for me. Longlegs, Barbarian, Nope, Talk to Me, Nosferatu, and more have all given me such great theater experiences as they are genuinely scary and give you such different angles of horror. That kind of set my expectations so high because when I see such an amazing trailer and concept, I'm immediately set to believe that it is going to follow through on those ideas and tone. Saying all of this, Weapons is not what I expected at all. Now, I'm still pretty happy with the movie. Its presentation was so cool because you learn about all these characters' messed up lives all at the same time, but they are told in individual portions. It really keeps you guessing. But let's be real, the trailer is not what this movie is. My thoughts on each character aren't too groundbreaking. Everyone does well, and it's hard to say anything of substance besides that. I am so glad, though, that every character is an actual character. No one is too straightforward. Julia Gardner's character, Miss Gandy, is so odd to the point that at first I genuinely thought she might be responsible for the disappearances. Besides that, everyone does well, from Josh Brolin as Archer to Alden Ehrenreich as Paul, but the true standout for me was Amy Madigan. Gladys is an absolute monster and is one of the most terrifying antagonists I've seen in a horror movie. She is almost proud of the absolutely weird look she has and is able to manipulate so many people in such a short time. You genuinely never know what she's going to do at any point in the movie. I kind of just wanted to give praise to the cast and the performances each of them had because I know that there was a lot of trouble with the casting of every character in the movie, and the director actually said that Pedro Pascal was originally supposed to be in the movie, but he dropped out and he had to recast the entire movie. There is one moment that I think really excels in its horror. It is terrifying and leverages the tone in a really genius way to make it even scarier. The principal of the school meets and speaks with Gladys, and he shows some concern over her involvement in the disappearances. She then, in turn, clearly takes cross with this and moves forward to get rid of him. She randomly drops by his home, claiming she missed the bus, and as she is an older woman, she needs a place to rest. The principal finds this odd, but his husband forces him to let her in. When she comes in, she immediately takes control of the situation. She possesses him and makes him kill his husband. The principal slams him to the ground and starts to pummel his head into him. There is almost a rhythm to it as he slams harder and harder into him. The moment is almost treated as nothing special, which grounds it in a way you wouldn't expect. Everything is shown, the man's face being caved in, the principal's face being covered in blood, and his eyes starting to bulge as he is under the spell Gladys put on him. When horror isn't being covered and isn't treated as scary, that can make it scarier in some ways, because something like that shouldn't be seen as normal. Tons of horror movies don't want to show too much and cut away when something too brutal is going on. But when you opt to treat it as normal and show everything, it can be more effective. No music, no screaming, no fear. It is just as plain as day. Many movies try to make you feel scared through jump scares and cheap moments. These get you in the moment, but they leave your brain as soon as the fear wears off. When you see something like a man brutally killing with nothing held back or left to the imagination, it really sticks with you. When you watch the first trailer and see the poster, this movie seems like it will be an extremely dark and grounded story. That is the exact opposite of how it is treated in the movie. The opening scene set the tone, and I honestly immediately knew what kind of movie we were going to see. It starts with all the children leaving their houses, and it is narrated by a child. Beware the Darkness by George Harrison plays, which sets a sort of haunting tone, but it isn't nearly as scary as the trailer portrayed it to be. I do enjoy it as a song in the opening, but it isn't what I was expecting. The mystery isn't grounded or realistic when it is revealed. Gladys is genuinely a witch who is seemingly using the children and other people for unknown reasons. The reality of why she's doing all of this is left to our interpretations, and I think it is actually pretty effective. We don't need a detailed explanation on what is going on. I have some theories on what is happening, but we truly don't fully know. Is she sacrificing children to demons? Is she using them to stay alive? What really is at play here? Once I accepted that this movie wasn't going to be what I expected from the trailer, I had a good time. A lot of critics have gone on to say that this is a horror masterpiece, but let's be real, this movie is great in a lot of ways, but is nothing more than a great concept and a good time. I don't think it deserves such high praises, and while I did have a genuinely great time with what I saw, it stumbles in some ways and leans too far into the comedic tone given what it was sold as. The movie literally ends with 17 children breaking out of their home and chasing an old woman across several blocks. She runs in fear in an almost cartoonish way, and when the kids catch her, they legitimately eat her like a watermelon. Watch the first trailer and tell me that is what you expect from the movie.
Kids walked out of those homes. No one pulled them out. No one forced them. What do you see that I don't?
I think this movie is a really important example of expectations being too high for the actual experience delivered. Not only that, but I'm pretty confused as to why the marketing team chose to show off the movie how they did. I didn't watch the second trailer, but going into the movie only having seen the first one, you have to immediately readjust your expectations after the first scene. I have found this problem in some other movies as well, but usually it is a problem with them showing too much. I have heard that actually the first and second trailers show a lot, but I refuse to watch them in the lead up in order to be able to actually see every surprise as it comes. This is another example that reminds me of my video about trailers and how they suck. It continues to be an issue. There's one big takeaway I have coming out of this movie with, and that is to manage my expectations because the marketing team clearly isn't on the same level as the director and team. Because this movie wasn't what was promised to us at all. But as I mentioned, once I was able to accept that things were going to be way different than what I expected, I was able to have a good time and enjoy the movie for what it was in its entirety. This is something my brother couldn't do, and he was clearly visibly upset by the end of the first scene. I don't have a clue as to why the marketing team sold us on a movie that is meant to be grounded and horrifying, but there really isn't anything I can do to change that. All we can do is take it in stride and try to enjoy the experience for what it is, not what a group decided to show us to try to get butts in seats. Weapons is bat crazy, but it does that tone well. It does a lot well, even if it wasn't what I expected. I am excited to see what Zach Cregger does next. This movie and Barbarian are great movies, and I think he has a promising future ahead. As of the making of this video, there are rumors that there is a prequel being developed that will tell the backstory of Gladys. I'm fully on board with this idea, and seeing as the box office numbers are already so promising given this film's low budget, I think it will happen. The idea has a lot of potential for fleshing out her story, and even though I think that the mystery and intrigue around her character is a really strong point of the movie, it can work a lot in another story if you lean into the horror of her manipulation of people. She could just go on a 2.5 hour rampage, and I think that would serve as a great horror movie. I'm usually not too interested in one off horror ideas being given sequels and prequels, but I do think that the story being pitched with Gladys at the forefront could be really fun. As you can tell, I am pretty mixed on this movie, but that mostly came from a great marketing run that resulted in a completely different film. It was a solid movie and an enjoyable experience, just an odd turn of events.